Greetings. I do hope you're well. It sure has been an interesting week as we try to consider whether or not or how much interaction we'll engage in. I'm in the old and therefore vulnerable category, so I probably will continue to shelter in place and only go out for necessities, which often is Yaya, my new dog's need to go outside and walk up and down the street. But as I was thinking of this major disruption and the suffering the coronavirus has caused all of us the world over, I wondered what long-term difference it might make. I probably, like you, have read various articles speculating on what the new normal will be like, or will we return to the way things are. We are drawn to what is known, what is comfortable, and there are powerful currents in our society to get us to return to things just like they were. But for the last months, we've done things differently, everything differently. We have watched people suffer, die. We've seen hospitals struggle to meet patients' demands, and many go without work and the means to provide food and shelter. And we've seen heroic and sacrificial service of first responders, hospital staff, grocery clerks, and delivery people. And many of us have been the recipients of everyday help with shopping and just the needed conversation and contact, even if it's in a different form. So I wonder if all this is not an invitation to transformation. Because I believe a loving God not only created us, but is involved with us, transcendent and immanent, I think the life of Jesus and our faith have something to say to us about how we can be transformed by this seismic event. It seems to me that Jesus' disciples struggled for some time to deal with the resurrection, just as we struggle to deal with the coronavirus and all that means. So each week I'm looking at one of the resurrection stories to seek guideposts how we might be transformed. At first, I looked at Jesus' interaction with Thomas. He met him where he was and met all his concerns. So will not Jesus meet us where we are? And then in the description of the travelers to Emmaus, Jesus used the Hebrew scriptures to explain the crucifixion and resurrection and all that means. So, cannot our study of the scriptures give us guidance to what it tells us to do now? In John's Gospel, there is an account of some of the disciples returning to Galilee and going fishing. That was their profession before they met Jesus. So they perhaps wished to return to what they knew, what they had done before, what was their normal. In the account, which is in the 21st chapter of John, they go out at night but fail to catch any fish. Maybe that was normal too. Sometimes your business succeeds, sometimes it fails. But I wonder if just being out on the lake gave them a sense of normalcy, of relief from the pain of watching their master die, and then absorbing the unbelievable idea that he had risen from the dead. Then at daybreak, the story continues, someone appeared on the beach and called out and said, "Throw the nets on the other side of the boat. That's where the fish are." They are willing to try one more time. And when they do, their nets are weighted down with the catch. The abnormal had entered, and they realized the one on the beach was indeed the resurrected one. Pulling their nets ashore, they find Jesus cooking breakfast. He asks them for some fish and then joins them in a meal of bread and fish, an ordinary activity, something normal. But they perhaps also remember another time they had a meal of fish and bread where a small amount fed 5,000, a seeming miracle. They possibly also remembered how he had been their host at the Last Supper and washed their feet. They may even have remembered how he provided an abundance of good wine at a wedding feast to prevent a family's embarrassment. They were being transformed, it seems. They were coming to see what God, in the crucified and resurrected Jesus, was giving them, and perhaps all of humanity. So perhaps, in the crucified and resurrected one, the incarnate of God, we too see a picture of humanity and the nature of God that is transforming us. Returning to the normal, just the way it always was, didn't work for the disciples. Maybe it won't work for us. And if we are to find a new normal, what might that look like? The disciples were fed, they caught an abundance of fish, they shared in a meal. Might we also find there is an abundance, enough for all to be fed, a new willingness to share? Maybe the failures of the night before, the previous times, can be changed by casting our nets on the other side of the boat, by doing things differently, by listening to that voice that resists going back to the way it's always been done and missing the opportunity to be transformed by the pain and suffering of the coronavirus. Just maybe. Blessings, and stay safe and well.